Alright team, we're up against an elite squad of fighters looking to bring us down. It's 5v5 out there, which means we're gonna have to communicate. We're gonna have to support each other. But most importantly of all, we are gonna have to stay balanced. Oh, you've gotta be kidding me. Hello Internet, welcome to Game Theory, the show that knows that if you want to run faster, you always carry a knife. What's my lawyer doing here? Hold on a second. Guys, I'm in the middle of a recording right now. Oh. Alright. Okay, I've been told by certain legally minded individuals on the team that I should clarify that carrying a knife only makes you run faster in video games. You should not run using knives in real life. In real life, knives only help you run faster if you happen to be on the pointy end. What? What now? Yeah, Sure, I was getting to that, thank you. I've also been reminded to tell you that this episode was sponsored by My.Games, who've just released their new title, Warface Breakout, a tactical first-person shooter that should immediately be familiar to anyone who's ever played Counter-Strike or Call of Duty's Search and Destroy mode. The addictive formula of fast-paced 5v5 matches with one team trying to plant a bomb and the other team defending against it. It's like the video game equivalent of TikTok. You have a bad round? Don't worry, there's a new one starting fresh in less than a minute, which keeps you wanting to play just one more round for hours. And with PC exclusive games like CSGO and Riot's Valorant being some of the hottest shooters in the world of gaming right now, it's actually really nice that Warface Breakout is aiming to bring that same kind of fast-paced, easy to pick up and play team-based FPS action to console players on the Xbox One and PS4 for the low price of $19.99 no less. I earned cash for reading that line, and speaking of cash, you earn cash each round, which you can then use to buy better guns and gadgets. No respawns allowed, which, if you're like me, means that you spend most of the 2-minute round spectating your more skilled teammates thinking, how the heck did they make that shot? Actually, you know what? No. Here's gamer cred Matt Pat stepping in saying, during the playtest, I was actually my team's MVP. You see, that's me, right there, in the front. I know it doesn't look like a gamer tag that I would actually have, but it was an anonymous playtest and it was all randomly generated, okay? So, you know what? That right there proves two things. A, that the game is easy for players of all skill levels to hop into and begin mastering, and B, that I'm better at shooters than like the 3 marketing people that I was playing against and our head editor Dan. Dan got wrecked! Or either that or, you know, he just tanked his performance to suck up to me since I'm his boss. Anyway, all of that leads me to the knife. Like I said, my team's nickname for me is Spray and Pray, since that's kind of my aiming strategy. So, during the playtests for Warface Breakout, I was looking for alternative attack options that allowed me to be a little less precise and a little bit more effective, specifically the game's absolutely massive collection of knives. Unlike CSGO and Valorant, where the knife is a 2-hit kill and, honestly speaking, is just used to run faster or humiliate opponents who happen to be AFK, Breakout differentiates itself by making melee an insta-kill, which I gotta say is nice since it gives my panicked flailing a bit more viability while also giving me a legitimate excuse to show off my ultramarine techno-inspired realness. Double win! In fact, in a game where everyone is covered head to toe in body armor and can take several shots to the chest before keeling over, the knife might actually be the fastest way to kill someone. It got me thinking, for as often as we see the trope of a one-hit kill knife in FPS games, how realistic is that really? Does it actually make sense that a stab will instantly take someone out of a fight when they're geared to the teeth, when a bullet to the chest might be something that they easily shrug off? It seems like video game logic to me, but then I did the research and came to some shocking conclusions. Should you bring a knife to a gunfight? Well, the answer might seem like an obvious no way. In truth, both in video games and in reality, you may just be better pulling out that knife. What now? Why are there so many interruptions in this episode? Oh, that was not my lawyer, that was the game development team who wants to remind you that all of my conclusions are mine and mine alone. They're just theories and that I may have overthought this game a little too much. Alright, Warface Breakout gives us a pretty plausible explanation for why a bullet to the chest isn't an automatic or semi-automatic kill. Everyone on this battlefield is wearing head-to-toe armor. By taking a look at the character customization screen, we can actually see just how decked out each of our soldiers are for battle. Ballistic vest, hard-knuckle gloves, full-face tactical helmet. This is basically the same sort of gear SWAT teams, soldiers, and counter-terrorism units are wearing out there in the real world. Now, in order to understand how a knife would function relative to these pieces of armor, we first have to understand how the armor itself works. One of the most common pieces of armor that we're all aware of is bulletproof vests, right? But in reality, bullet-resistant vest is probably the more accurate title. We're all familiar with Kevlar, right? Developed in the 1960s, it's what bullet-resistant vests are made of. Well, not quite so much anymore. It's what bullet-resistant vests used to be made of. You see, the materials that made up the vests have continued to evolve over the past 60 years, and now many vests are being made using what's known as polyethylene fibers, better known as PE fibers. Basically, a plastic that's in everything that we use. Grocery bags, water bottles, toys, and now things to protect us from bullets. You see, these fibers are woven together in layers, resulting in vests that are both stronger, cheaper, and lighter than the Kevlar that came before it. That type of armor is known as soft armor, used mostly by police officers where the biggest threats they're going to be facing, hopefully, are basic handguns with slower, smaller bullets. For war zones, vests need to be stronger to stop things like rifle rounds, and as such, these vests are backed by plates of ceramic or steel, in addition to the extra layers of PE to break up the bullet and capture it before those pieces hit the body. Because of the big protective plates, that sort of armor is known as hard armor. All that being said though, the principle for stopping the bullet has always been the same. To stop a bullet from penetrating your body and hitting vital organs, the vest distributes the force of the bullet across a larger part of the body. So rather than all of that bullet force hitting a single point, that force is distributed by the plates or the fibers across your entire chest. One of the basic laws of physics states that energy can't be destroyed or created, only change form, which means that the ballistic vest isn't nullifying the bullet impact so much as it is spreading that impact out. There's a good chance that you'll still be left with a nasty bruise, and the force of getting socked in the chest by a bullet traveling over 2,000 feet a second is probably going to throw off your aim, something that a lot of FPSs represent by causing your character to flinch or have to re-scope after taking the damage. So the question we need to solve is whether the soldiers in Breakout are wearing hard or soft armor. Well, to know for sure, we have to look carefully at the animations that we see happening while they're being shot. In this footage, we see that my VHS-2 rifle here is drawing blood as I make direct hits to the enemy's chest plate. And in this other footage, we see smaller guns like pistols doing the exact same thing, making direct contact to the center of the body armor and it penetrating enough to draw blood. As such, it seems safe to say that the armor being worn by the Breakout soldiers is soft armor. Good for slowing pistol ammo, but not backed by any sort of heavy steel or ceramic plates that would resist the sort of heavier duty ammunitions. All personal armor works this way, helmets included. The helmets that we see in Warface Breakout have a design that seems similar to the real-world Gentex Corporation's Special Operations Forces Personal Equipment Advanced Requirements family of tactical headborne systems. Whew, that is a mouthful. Luckily, they abbreviate it to SPEAR FIFS, which is slightly less of a mouthful. I just don't get it. Why does every piece of military hardware have to come with like a super long acronym? Real-world helmets that actually cover your entire face, like we commonly see in FPS games like this, aren't actually all that common. But Special Forces helmets do support visor and mask attachments that seem similar to what we see in-game. The way that helmets protect you isn't just by putting a hard surface between you and the incoming bullet and shrapnel, but by actually cushioning the blow. Military helmets are basically advanced forms of bicycle helmets. They're filled with foam and elastic polymers that make it so that when your helmet gets hit by something, you don't just have a hard helmet smacking you in the face. Even still, a helmet that saves your life probably won't protect you against all impacts. For instance, U.S. Marine Corporal Daniel M. Greenwald had his life saved by his helmet. He was shot in the head by a sniper and was instantly knocked unconscious by the impact. He woke up sometime later with blood running down his face. Luckily, he survived to tell the tale. Still, it's an interesting thing to talk about in the context of FPS games that have short rounds. Often the goal is framed as trying to kill the enemy, or at least that's what we as players imagine. Boom, headshot and all that, but in reality, that one-hit kill may not be a kill at all. You may simply be knocking them unconscious for several minutes, which, let's face it, is equally effective at taking them out for the duration of the round. Anyway, all of this is to say that armor does a pretty darn good job of stopping bullets from being fatal, but it doesn't really explain why a knife would be more effective. After all, if a Kevlar or PE vest can stop a bullet traveling at over 2,000 feet a second, surely it should be able to stop a knife too, right? Well, not really. If our Breakout soldiers were wearing hard armor with its ceramic or steel plates, well, then it'd be a different story. But remember, we established earlier that they're wearing soft armor. And while the general word armor might bring to mind knights, remember, bullet-resistant vests are made of fibers. Fibers woven together to cause bullets to flatten out. These bullets aren't able to penetrate the tightly woven synthetic fiber layers that make up a bullet-resistant vest. The bullets are too wide. They get caught up in the fibers. But with a sharp enough knife, it actually is possible to stab directly through that bulletproof vest. Again, because they're fibers woven together, the knife is able to weave its way through the inner crossing of those fibers. In short, it is fairly common to have yourself a bullet-resistant vest that isn't stab-resistant. This is actually similar to how armor-piercing rounds work. Armor-piercing rounds are specifically designed to not deform when they hit the armor. They're built with a dense metal tip that allows them to maintain their shape in order to penetrate through the fibers, similar to the way a knife attacks. And all of this is without even mentioning the vulnerable areas that exist in even the hardest of these sorts of armors. Like I said, these aren't full body suits of armor like Knights wore. These are vests. They protect the front and the back, but they leave your neck, arms, and sides largely vulnerable. It's actually why SWAT team members and soldiers who are issued body armor are taught to face their body forward against the assailant, so that the protective chest armor will resist the attack. Normally, the advice in these sorts of situations would be to turn your body to present the smallest profile to hit possible, but when fighting with body armor, you want to maximize the potential of any blows landing where you're most protected. That being said, not all knife attacks are the same. Swinging and slashing like you see in CSGO, not effective. The fibers can handle those sorts of attacks just fine. They're woven to block against those sorts of blows. It's stabbing motions that allow the tip of the knife to work its way through those woven fibers. And one look at some of the knife animations in Warface Breakout show us that they got it at least partially right. The melee animations for some of these knives definitely look more stabby than slashy. It might just be a small detail, but it definitely makes the one-hit melee kills that you see in Warface Breakout actually more scientifically plausible. But we can actually take it one step further. The game offers us a huge range of knife options that, while all offering the one-hit kill option, aren't actually created equally when it comes to armor-piercing abilities. So, if you wanted to attack using the most accurate weapon in the roster, what do you choose? Well, one of those knives was, wouldn't you know it, originally designed with armor-piercing in mind, the Tanto. The Tanto is a real-world modern military knife named after the Japanese short sword used by samurai during the Heian period. In the same way that some bullets are designed with hard armor-piercing tips, the Tanto knife is specifically designed to have a strong metal tip, so it too can absorb the impact from repeated stabbings into a tough material that might cause other knives to break. The Jag Commando, which is basically 3 knives spiraled together into one death spike, another great option here. On the other hand, one knife that you might want to leave at home is a favorite of fans of this genre, the Karambit. Curved like a claw, these knives look really cool and often have some of the coolest skins in these sorts of games, but these knives are designed to be used with a slashing or hooking motion and not the stabbing motion that would be most effective for piercing armor. Or, you know what? Who cares? Bring it if you like. Even though these knives are used very differently in real life, they're all the same in-game for balance reasons, and the only differences are cosmetic. So, you know what? Show off that epic Karambit skin if you like, but if you want to have the most realistic knife, well, now you know. Jag Commando, Tanto. But if that wasn't crazy enough, we can actually take it one final step. Sure, knives may be able to exploit weaknesses in ballistics armor, and we may have just identified the best knives of the bunch to bring, but you know what beats them all? Grandma's knitting needle. No joke. This whole time we've been talking about bullet resistance versus stab resistance, but there's one thing I haven't mentioned yet: spike resistance. Yeah, it is another level of threat, and even bullet resistant, stab resistant armor might not be spike resistant. Remember, we're dealing with woven plastic fabrics here, which can stop a wide bullet and may sometimes be able to stop a thin-edged blade, but what if you have a thin needle? Spikes, like knitting needles, nails, even screwdrivers are able to slide their way through the tiny spaces between the threads of the fabric, effectively nullifying the protection that the fabric is trying to deliver. Spike protection armors require hardened synthetic fiber that can't be easily ripped by an edged blade and can block the spike as it tries to pass through. So should you bring a knife to a gunfight? Sure, but the thing you should really be fearing on the battlefield is Grandma's knitting needle. Hey, Warface Breakout, since this is a sponsored video, I know that you're watching this. Add Grandma's knitting needle as a special melee weapon. Do it for the accuracy, absolutely do it for all the memes that it'll generate, I don't care, but man, if you want to humiliate your opponent on the battlefield, that one right there will certainly do the trick. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm off to flail a bit more. But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching. And one final thank you to My.Games for sponsoring today's video. Again, this is a period of time where ad revenue is super low, so your sponsorship is actually making a huge difference to all of us on Team Theorist over here. And for all you theorists watching, if you are interested in checking out Warface Breakout and all its cool melee action, make sure you click the link in the top line of this video's description. Like I said, it's available in the digital stores for the PS4 and Xbox One right now for just $19.99. So like I said, said, if you're looking for some good quality video game distraction while you're stuck indoors, Warface Breakout is there waiting for you to take advantage of it. I'll see you next time for some Minecraft.